Hey there, Big Bear StarCraft here, being the huggable, lovable, but unfortunately not touchable person I am. I have decided to come to you actually with I think this is my fourth cast. It feels weird because it's like I'm getting to that point where I'm kind of starting to get a little bit comfortable with casting the first game I've ever casted. I was so nervous. I felt so uncomfortable trying to cast it, trying to make sure I got everything casting. And then now I'm slowly starting to kind of figure out what to say, when to say it, when to put emphasis on my words so you guys know, oh hey, maybe now's the time to listen. Now I mean would be the bad time to say, and he is building a pylon and he is getting drones, but you have to time it right. Make sure you know what you're saying when you're saying it. Actually sending out a probe on 9. We have MYM SaSe. I have heard of SaSe. I think I've watched 2 or 3 of his games, but I don't think I've actually ever seen him win a game. Not to say that he has never won a game before. I am sure that this guy is much more talented than I am, much more talented than the majority of our viewers as well. I mean, for him to be playing Lalush, the occasionally BMing player that he is, if you guys want to see BM, you should watch Lalush. People think Idra's the one who BMs, but I don't think I've actually ever seen Idra BM in a tournament. He really just BMs when he's on the ladder. I'm sure when you play StarCraft for 10 hours a day, you get kind of bored, and you can see here, this is a cute little trick that Protoss does a lot, so I'll actually block off that, but looks like he's actually just sending out to scout, and he's just getting regular spawning pool and extractor at regular times. 14, I'm guessing 14, 15 gas, 14 pool, because there's the 15 drone, and you can see here comes another drone just kind of scouting. And what he's going to do is, if he can time this right, Lalush can actually get his drone here before the cybernetics core gets done. Oh, this is going to be close. It's going to be really close, but he's going to get it. Yep, and there it is. See how he blocked the cybernetics core? And wow, that's terrible cybernetics core placement. I don't really know what to say to that. If I was Lalush, I would be building a lot of Zerglings right now, and I would be winning this game and pushing in. Look at this, because the thing is, Protoss, their actual advantage is the fact that they can wall off. They can put a single zealot here and just really just block this off and prevent any kind of Zergling run by, and really prevent any kind of harass by the Zerg. But SaSe actually getting a little bit impatient and building his cybernetics core way off course. You'll see a lot of people just put it here and then blocked off with an additional pylon. I think this may cost him a lot because he's actually chrono boosting out a sentry. But if the sentry, I don't think will be out before the actually pulling his Zerglings back. I don't really know why he did that. He might have pyloned the base here, because now you can see him just throwing down a second gateway, and his wall off is now completed again. Smart play by SaSe to actually get the pylon here and force those Zerglings to instead focus that down so he can get his expansion. That's a little bit of heads up play, and that really prevented him probably from losing the game. And you can see actually chrono boosting out 2 sentries. Kind of interesting. Doesn't manage to save that pylon, or that pylon. Doesn't manage to save that probe. I didn't know pylons moved and built things, but I guess technically they do build things because they do warp things in, and without them you cannot build anything. So I don't know. I mean, pylons and probes, the only real difference is that one is a big building that is a crystal, and the other one is a small little thing that goes meep when you click on it. And you can see that anyways, I am done making bad jokes. He is still just sitting at the front with the Zerglings. You can see sentries and Zealot are pushing in, but you can see how fast Zealots actually do just tear away at Zerglings. I think it's 2 hits to kill one, 8 damage per shot, and Zerglings have what, 2 HP? Oh, 85. So it does take 4 hits to actually kill one, but that's with 2 side blades, so I think that is still 2 hits because they attack twice. And that is why attack is actually doubly helpful for Zealot, because it actually doubles their attack, not just by once. Also with Colossus, because obviously Colossus shoot 2 laser beams, the +1 attack actually helps them twice as much as it would a normal unit. Unlike the Zergling or the Roach or the Hydra, who only shoots a single time. Or the Muta. Well, I guess kind of, because the Muta's attacks bounce 3 or 4 times. So the Muta is really the only unit that's affected a lot for Zerg by a +1 attack. So I mean, for the most part, you see, I think Zerg actually gets armor upgrades, but I don't know. I mean, it really just depends on the player. It depends if he wants to be aggressive or what build he's going. You'll see a lot of Zerg players just get the double upgrades anyways. They'll get missile and upgrade, or melee and upgrade. Sorry about that. Apparently someone is trying to Skype me. I should really just get rid of Skype. I don't really like it too much. It just lags too much. And it's just awkward to listen to a whole bunch of people in chat room trying to talk. Then you can see actually getting out a hallucinated phoenix. Now this will be interesting because if it does hit an overlord, then Lalush will know it is fake because the hallucinations actually do no damage. But they're mostly used for scouting, and you will see that he's actually going to be scouting the Roach Warren, the spawning pool, and the layer timing. So he'll pretty much know exactly what's up, when to push. And the thing is with players, not only do they scout things, but they'll scout things and know the timings, and not only just scout to know counters to the units that are coming, but they'll scout and know when those units are coming based on the timing of the buildings and when those buildings were thrown down, or maybe how many drones are at each base. But you can see actually that the Zerg is doing an extremely good job of harassing. Hold on, check this out. This is a really cool little tab here. Units killed, control on. Look at that, 10 workers killed for Lalush, so now he's going to be in a huge advantage. You can see new can station 31 to 39, so not too far ahead, but still 8 drones, or 8 workers, I guess. 8 workers is still pretty far ahead. He's just, and especially when 3 of them are doing absolutely nothing. And there it is. He's actually throwing out a Twilight Council. It'll be interesting to see if he goes for some Blink Stalker trickery, or if he goes straight into DTs. DTs can be extremely effective if the Zerg does not see it and does not build a Spore Crawler or an Overseer, because you will usually lose a lot of workers before you actually do have time to get that Overseer up, considering that a DT is faster than an Overseer. So I will be keeping an eye on the production tab, and you can see actually Zerg's Roach Speed and Zerg's Burrow are both up, and that is extremely effective because I do not think that there is actually a robotics facility on the way. Doesn't really look like one is even being thought of beginning, so there's no way for the Protoss to detect these units once they do decide to burrow. And burrowing a Roach actually allows you to, see it's right here, rapid regeneration. You actually do heal HP when you burrow your Roaches, so it's extremely effective. A hallucinated Phoenix, but he'll know it's hallucinated because it's not doing actually any damage to this Zergling. I think that SaSe wants him to think he's going air tech, so that he throws down some Evo chambers. You can see that Lalush is actually kind of one of those stubborn Zergs, I think, and really doesn't want to change his playstyle. You see that like Zerg has really changed kind of their playstyle and really has changed the metagame and the late game into like Ultra Broodlord or Zergling Infestor Broodlord. And Lalush is really one of those people who just really wants to stick to the Roach Hydra composition that we saw really early game. I mean, you know, early game, like the first maybe week after beta was done and the real game was actually released. And I mean, it was really a really hard thing to use because the Colossus outrange them. The force fields will push back your units. The Colossus will just peel away at all of your Roaches, and it really, I don't think it works too well. But then again, I am not Lalush, and obviously Lalush knows better than me because he is a pro and I am a noob. And you can see still just hallucinating the units. I really think that he wants Lalush to think that, or at least use them to scout, and you can see this is what I'm talking about. The Roaches, you can burrow though, so he does save all 3 of those Roaches, but the force fields here just cut off Roaches, and all he has to do is just really wait for these Roaches here to unburrow, or at least get out an Observer. It looks like no Observer's even on the way. Okay, here's the Observer, and so all 3 of these Roaches will go down. And I mean, maybe Lalush should have pushed that advantage while he had it. These Hydras are just kind of tired of an annoying Void Ray, so they decided to pick it off. Another annoying Void Ray. I really like SaSe's constant scouting here, but he is losing a lot of energy on these, which will prevent him from getting the force field. You can see that here is where the smart play, I think, is going to be. Lalush is going to push back here, really prevent this Protoss from escaping, but deciding not to do that. If he had a couple more units up here, it really would have been effective. But you can see that the Blink's actually taking out a lot of Roaches. He is pushing back, but okay. Not a good time for emphasis, because I thought that that was going to be the final battle, the big confrontation that we wait for. Both players just trying to find that perfect positioning, actually destroying this. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a blink in by the Stalkers here in a couple seconds. You can see that he's actually pushing up. He actually decides to get all of his army on one side, but I don't know if that's a good idea, because the advantage of the Zerg player is that he can concave more force field. The Guardian Shield actually going down. The Protoss player is actually kind of antsy. He really should be using these force fields to more advantage, really splitting this army in half. If he'd gotten those 2 force fields, say, like right here in the middle of this army and just split this army in half, it would have been such easy work. I think that these armies are pretty much exactly even, so it's going to come down to the micro to see who will have the advantage. You could see that he was actually earlier trying to throw up a pylon right here. That's not very effective, but you can see actually here it comes. This is kind of advantageous to Zerg because he's got a concave. You can see actually he's still pushing up, still pushing in. He's going to try to press it, but the Hydralisk and Roach army is going to push him back. He really needs to get Colossus Tech. I think he really wants to focus down on this 4-gate push, or 6-gate push, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th one's there. So you can see it's a 6-gate push. Extremely effective Protoss push, but it's kind of been nullified. I mean, the advantage of it is usually at around the 10-minute mark. You can see there's some good force fields trapping the units in the back, but still they just kind of swarm around the force fields with no problem. That is the advantage of Zerg of fighting on creep, but he's still losing some Hydralisk. He's pushing back, but he's actually pushing back. There it is, and here comes the final confrontation. I'm thinking, nope, Zerg is still a little bit antsy. You can see that he's constantly blinking back, but here it comes, the final confrontation. I actually think this is going to be much closer than you think, but Hydralisks do just peel away at Stalkers. He really needs some Zealots to be just destroying these Hydralisks, but it looks like the Protoss player will win this battle by a very small amount, but you can see that actually 18 more Zerglings on the way, 3 more Roaches if you look at the production tab, so it will be a relatively even battle. You can see 6 more Stalkers being morphed in though, with +3 almost being done. This is actually an extremely good timing push for the Protoss player, because now is the time to push on a 0-0 army against a 0-3 army. Those the 3 damage just does a ridiculous amount of extra damage for the Stalkers, and I really think that is going to be the deciding factor in this battle, but actually blinking away, so the Stalkers are going to stay alive. They're probably just going to rally themselves up here and then get more units here. You can see still morphing in more Stalkers. I think that this 6-gate push is really effective, but the timing of it is a little bit off in the sense that the timing for it is over. You should really be transitioning into an expansion, into Colossus play, something like that, because Stalkers are not going to be as effective against Hydralisk and Roach army. I think Lalush really should be getting upgrades, and there's the ground carapace level 1 that I was talking about, how I was saying that armor is actually more important than missiles or melee, and you can see he actually was gearing up for that expansion here, but it looks like that is not going to be the case. Actually, Zerg army is massing up. Looks like they're deciding to push out here. If they push out here and push through the back, and then while the Protoss is pushing up, you can get a beautiful flank. And I think that a lot of Zerg players need to take advantage of flanks more. If you keep half your army here, for example, another half here, and the Protoss player pushes down this ramp, and you attack here, and then you flank around to here, you'll have a beautiful flank, and you'll pretty much just decimate any Protoss army that tries to get in your way. Lalush is instead favoring to more of a Protoss death ball kind of style of play, where you keep all of your units together. Unfortunately, it is called the Protoss death ball for a reason, and that is because the Protoss does it best. If you get Colossus standing over the Stalkers, Zealots in the mix, it is really hard to stop late game. And actually smartly burrowing this, saying why not? If you have to move your observer away from my base to see that Roach, I might as well save it. And you can see he might unburrow it soon. It just depends if he forgets about it or not. You can see still macroing like crazy, actually finally getting Infestors. That's also a good tech switch choice, because Infestors can fungal growth these Stalkers, preventing them from blinking away. And so if you fungal growth a Stalker, it will not be able to blink, and you will be able to get a lot of shots. I do not know if this is the best spot for the Zerg to choose to engage, because you will not be able to get any sort of concave, and you can see that the fungal growth is actually holding back the Stalkers here. And so that was actually a pretty good engagement for the Zerg player. He got a lot of Stalkers there. Then that's what I'm saying, is that the 6-gate is kind of being rendered ineffective, because the Hydralisk and Roach army is good against gateway units. He really should be getting some kind of Colossus tech or something, or at least getting Zealots, something to tank the damage, because these Stalkers are going to be peeled away. But you can see actually now 1-1 is finished, and so Protoss' advantage of having upgrades is kind of over, and I think that he will at least lose his gold expansion. There's nothing much he can really do against all of these Hydralisks without the help of Zealots tanking, morphing in more Stalkers. And we shall see. You can see Infestors, Roaches, and Zerglings being rallied in. Zerglings are actually really good against Stalkers, because Stalkers single shot does not do very well against Zerglings. You can see morphing in more Stalkers, pushing back. Actually, the Zerg is pushing up, and this might be GG, because he's pushing in, deciding to engage here. Hydralisk doing so much damage to Stalkers. He's got 3 Stalkers blinking back, but I don't think it is enough, because here comes the Infestors. No fungal growth on the Infestors, but I do not think it matters. This is pretty much game over. He might try to blink up here, but there's the Funky Growth. This is probably going to be GG. You can just see the Zerg Swarm is morphing in, and he is saying 3 good games.